Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing if I think that you should learn machine learning. Now the reason I'm making this video is because recently there has been a ton of hype related to machine learning and AI, and it seems like everybody wants to dive into this field regardless of their background, and even beginner programmers are constantly asking me, should I get into machine learning? Where should I get started? I want to build AI, so on and so forth. So in this video, what I'll do is share some advantages and disadvantages, kind of pros and cons of getting into machine learning, and hopefully help answer the question if machine learning is right for you and if you should start on the path of kind of getting into AI and ML. Regardless, if you're someone who knows that you want to get into machine learning, there is an awesome platform I need to share with you, which is called Machine Learning Expert, which happens to be the sponsor of this video. Before we get started, I need to thank AlgoExpert for sponsoring this video and having me talk to you about their awesome new product, Machine Learning Expert. ML Expert is a revolutionary platform to learn machine learning and prepare for your machine learning interviews. It has an awesome ML crash course that teaches you supervised learning, unsupervised learning, deep learning, and much more. Once you've mastered the basics, you can move on to learn about large-scale machine learning and see how to design and build complex machine learning systems that scale. Finally, to practice your skills and prepare for your interviews, you can check out the Machine Learning Coding Questions, ML Quiz, and ML Design Questions. This whole course is taught by Ryan, an ex-Amazon machine learning infrastructure engineer that is a true machine learning expert. Check out ML Expert today from the link in the description and use the code TechWithTim for a discount on the platform. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the video here. The first thing I'm going to do is just share with you a very interesting story that was actually told to me by my marketing professor. I took a marketing class probably about a year ago, and it relates to machine learning and how machine learning is used for marketing efforts for large retail chains like Walmart, Costco, so on and so forth. So if you don't want to hear that story, feel free to fast forward. I'll put some kind of timestamps in the description, but I found it really interesting enough that I'm going to share it with you here. So I'm going to start by just sharing a little bit of context here as it relates to retail stores and their use of machine learning. So retail stores have been using machine learning for a very long time, even probably before social media, although I would assume it'd be a lot less advanced than it is now, but they've been using it for a long time to optimize things like what products you should have on what shelves, where you should lay out stores, how to optimize foot traffic in the store, how many staff you should have each day based on the volume of transactions, what time of year you want to have certain products in store, right? They've been doing that all the time, and that's one of the reasons why they're very successful is they have mass amounts of data and information, and they run them through these advanced machine learning models that are able to actually help them increase revenue, profits, decrease costs, so on and so forth. One of the main things that retail chains like this use machine learning for is marketing, right? They want to be able to target you with specific ad campaigns, and they want to entice you to come in and buy stuff. That is really the end goal of machine learning, make money, right? In a lot of cases. So anyways, this story here kind of starts with this woman who goes into Costco or Walmart, one of these very large retail chains, and she's using a rewards card. Now, whenever you use a rewards card, you use the same credit card constantly, or you give an email or something to a store, they start building a profile on you and keeping track of everything that you buy. They know when you bought it, what time you bought it, how much you spent, your average purchase price. They know all of these things, and they're able to build a pretty detailed profile on you and start making pretty accurate guesses on when you're going to come in next, what you're buying frequently, what they should try to encourage you to buy. And then from that profile, they will specifically target ads towards you by sending, coupons to you or sending emails with discounts, whatever, right? They'll target you with ads based on what it is that you've bought. So the story kind of goes like this. This young woman is going into this Walmart, this Costco. As I was saying, she's using a rewards card. And so they're able to build this profile on her on what she's purchasing. And what she's purchasing is a lot of stuff related to pregnancy. They're kind of an expecting mother, what you might buy if you're expecting to have a baby, right? And so she's buying all of this stuff, and I guess the machine learning model that's sending out these coupons kind of realizes that this picks it up and all of a sudden sends a coupon booklet to her address where she's still living with her parents, and all of these coupons are related to stuff that she's been purchasing, right? Trying to entice her to come back and buy more, giving her coupons for, diapers, pregnancy-related items. And so the dad takes this coupon box from the mail and starts reading through it and realizes that everything here is related to pregnancy, pretty much, right? And so he is extremely upset, super pissed. He thinks that this Walmart, this Costco is trying to entice his daughter to go and get pregnant or do whatever it is that he thinks they're doing. And so he sends all these nasty emails, calls up the manager, blah, 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 and is all upset about it. But then goes and talks to his daughter and realizes that his daughter actually is pregnant, and then kind of has to go back on the email and say, sorry, we had a long discussion, blah, blah, blah. But I just thought that was an interesting story because that kind of shows you the power of machine learning. This machine learning model was able to identify that this woman was pregnant before her own father. Now, obviously, this is probably a rare case or a strange situation, but it just kind of emphasized to me the power of machine learning and how it actually is used so heavily in our daily lives that we may not realize. And well, that's kind of how I'm going to segue into this video here and start talking about some of the pros and cons of learning this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that story, but now I'm going to get into the pros. And one of the first pros that I have to share with you here is that learning machine learning and understanding how it works, and specifically its use cases and applications, allows you to better understand how you are being influenced by machine learning models in your everyday life. Because machine learning really is everywhere. It's actually kind of scary how much stuff is using machine learning and how much data companies and just the internet in general has on you. And by having some kind of insight and background in this field, hopefully that allows you to act a little bit more independently and realize the conscious and subconscious effects of all of these recommendations and machine learning models that really are impacting you on a day-to-day life. So that is pro number one. So the second pro I have for you here is that understanding machine learning, even on a very basic rudimentary level, allows you to take any data that you may have, even if it's not mass amounts of data, even if it's not business related data, even if it's something simple, super personal, like your average calendar or schedule or daily routines, whatever it may be, you can take this data now, run it through a machine learning model, and actually find very, very interesting patterns and information that you would never be able to see by simply analyzing this as a human. Humans just are not good at picking out patterns in data, especially large volumes of data, and machine learning models can expose very, very interesting things. Even something super simple like putting in all of your grades into a calculator, right? Or into a machine learning model, sorry, and trying to predict what average you're going to end up with next semester. Now, of course, there's a lot of other factors than your previous grades that are going to determine that, but just really cool to take any data that you have and understand how you can turn this data, which is relatively meaningless, into actual information. And there's a lot of quotes related to data and information, but data is said to be pretty worthless unless you can turn it into some knowledge, some information that you can actually utilize, right? And I know for myself, someone that has a ton of data accessible to myself, whether it be through my YouTube channel, whether it be through my Discord server, my other social medias, being able to actually analyze this data, look at patterns, run it through models, look at predictions, and just see correlations between different things is really, really helpful when it comes to determining, what videos I'm going to make next, how I'm going to increase revenue of my YouTube channel, what videos on the channel seem to attract more clicks, so on and so forth. And I'm just trying to kind of open you up to the idea of if you have some data and you understand machine learning, you can find some very, very interesting piece of information from this. So that's kind of point number two. Hard to elaborate too much more, give you any great examples because I don't know your own use cases. But if you're someone who runs a small business or just has any data in front of you, learning machine learning is definitely going to be very valuable. And you're going to see some pretty interesting patterns and information likely from this data that you do have. So now the third pro I have for you when it comes to learning machine learning is that you get to be a part of a constantly evolving field that is genuinely changing the way in which humans live. Either in a good or bad way, you can make that argument for yourself. And you can now understand state-of-the-art research that's going on in these fields and actually be a part of this in some sense. Now, some of you may argue that because, you're not very good at machine learning or you're just getting started, that you're not really a part of this, constantly evolving and very exciting field. But I would beg to differ because even just having that basic understanding, as I was saying, allows you to really appreciate what is being created by the absolute geniuses out there, even something like Tesla, self-driving, chess AIs like Stockfish or AlphaZero, all of these really cool things that are coming out. It just gives you an appreciation for them. And personally, I am super fascinated and just very interested in watching what people are able to create with this technology, because I can actually go in and read a little bit of the research paper, kind of understand what it is that they've done on a very, very simple level. And it's just a really, really cool thing to be able to do. And even when it comes to, implementing some stuff in hobby projects, for example, I created a Flappy Bird AI, like that is really interesting and really cool. Even though I made a YouTube video on that, I would have totally done that just for fun because it just really fascinating to watch a computer learn and get better and understand patterns and trends. Anyways, I think this is really cool. I'll kind of terminate the point here because I could just keep going with all of these descriptive words. But now let's move on to some of the cons of learning machine learning. So the first con I have to share with you here is probably the number one reason why people don't get into machine learning. And this is that it is pretty challenging and it can be very intimidating, especially for people that have never programmed before and now are being thrown into this world where not only do they have to write sometimes pretty advanced code, but they also have to understand a lot of mathematical concepts to really grasp what is going on in these machine learning models. So that's kind of the first con here. If you want to get good at machine learning, this is not something you're going to do overnight. You're not going to learn it in a month or a week or something like that. This is going to take time, a lot of practice, and can definitely be very frustrating and intimidating as you're getting into it at the start. Especially if you're someone who's younger. I see a lot of people on my channel that are very young, like 13, 14, 15, that want to go and build AI, and that's great. I definitely encourage them to try to do that. But you will reach a point where your lack of math understanding may hold you back. And then you're going to have to spend time learning some fairly advanced math concepts like linear algebra, calculus, gradient descent, for example, that may be very hard to comprehend and may just kind of be frustrating and discourage you from going further in this field. So you can say this is a con, you can say this is a pro because it's challenging and you want to learn it. But one of the main reasons people don't get into this is because it isn't something that's super simple. And unlike programming, you do actually need to have a decent math background, at least in my opinion, to really make good use and understand what is going on in machine learning. So the second con I have for you is that machine learning can be very frustrating and time consuming, and oftentimes your efforts can lead to absolutely nothing. So I'm going to compare this to programming. When you are writing code, at least you have some code, right? Even if your code doesn't work at all, you can go and kind of fix it. You can tweak it. You can find where the bugs are. That might be difficult, but you can do that. You have some work. It's not just all gone. It's not meaningless. You've done something. However, when you make a machine learning model, a lot of times, especially if you don't know what you're doing, you can get to the end of your 8-hour training process just to realize that your model doesn't work at all. It doesn't do anything that you thought it was going to do. You have no idea what is wrong. You don't even know where to start when it comes to debugging. There's so many different things that could be wrong with this, and it's just a very time-consuming and oftentimes very frustrating process. Now, that may be trumped by the reward you get when you actually get a proper model, but I can say in my experience, there's been times when I've just given up on machine learning projects because it's been too frustrating, it's been too difficult, and I just didn't even know what to try next because there's so many different things and it just seemed like it wasn't worth my time. So that is the second con: frustrating, time consuming, and oftentimes your effort leads to absolutely nothing. So the last con I have for you here is that taking a machine learning model and applying it at scale and actually taking it from your development environment into a production environment can be very, very difficult. It's one thing to create a machine learning model that you can use on your own local machine and can serve you a few recommendations, predictions, whatever. But it's another thing to take that machine learning model, go and host that up on some cloud provider, AWS, whatever, and now have this work for, say, millions of customers per month, or work on your website, or be deeply integrated with your application. That is a whole nother story. And companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, their entire business model is pretty much predicated on the fact that they are able to do that. So this is not something that's easy. This is difficult. And again, that goes back to point number 2. You could do all of this effort, even get a machine learning model that works, but how the heck do you actually use it in your application? That's a whole nother step that could take a whole nother few months or weeks of learning to actually pull off correctly. So anyways, I think I'm going to leave the video here. Hopefully this opened your eyes a little bit to how machine learning is used, some of the pros and cons, and maybe encourage you to learn it, or kind of maybe gave you the idea that you want to try a different path. Regardless, if you do want to learn machine learning, definitely check out the sponsor of this video, Machine Learning Expert. Again, a massive thank you to Ryan for helping with some of the prep for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another YouTube video.